10 ways to achieve your singing dreams. Now in this video, I'm going to share with you what I did to become a singer, and I've now been a singer for nearly 25 years at the time of making this video. I started singing in 1999 and I didn't know that it was going to become a lifelong thing. I didn't know that I wanted to make it a career, and I certainly didn't know that I would be doing it still 25 years later, or teaching other people how to sing. Okay, so the first thing that is very, very important is to make the decision. So what happened was I was in a bit of a rut. I had a good job, a well-paying job. I kind of enjoyed it, but I knew that I wasn't living up to my full potential. I wasn't using all of my skills as a creative person, and I wasn't going to be able to reach very far up the career ladder in that industry, just because it just wasn't, I wasn't aligned with it. So it was good for the time. I was there for 5 years, and in that job for 5 years, I was actually a croupier in London Mayfair casinos. So it was a really good job. It was a stable job, but I really didn't enjoy it very much. And there were other things going on in my life, and I wasn't happy. And I read this book, and I knew that I needed to make a decision about what I wanted to do with my life. And in the middle of the night, one night, I woke up and I said, I'm going to be a singer and I'm going to make music my life. And that's what I did. But that one decision massively changed the trajectory of my personal and my professional life. So number one, make the decision. Okay, the second thing that's really important when you want to achieve your singing dreams is to be hyper-focused. It's really easy to get distracted with other things along the way. And when I started my business as a voice coach, I did exactly that. I was like, right, I'm a voice coach, but I'm going to try this, I'm going to try that, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try that. And it wasn't until I stopped all of the distractions and I made the decision, again, making the decision to focus 100% on building my voice coaching business, which included building my YouTube channel right here. So make the decision, then be hyper focused about that decision. Don't get distracted. Number 3, there is no plan B. This is very important. The reason is, when you have a plan B, because the music industry, whatever route you decide to go down, maybe you don't want to become the next Beyonce or Freddie Mercury or Bruno Mars. I always use those names. They're the first ones that come to mind. Or Lady Gaga or Madonna or Michael Jackson. Maybe you don't want to be a superstar, but within music, and this is something that most people don't realize and don't acknowledge, within music, there are hundreds of job roles that you can do. It's not all about getting a big record deal. In fact, it's not about that at all these days. It's not about trending at #1 for 3 weeks all over social media. There's lots of other ways to build a career in music. But in order to be successful, you cannot have a plan B, because it's so difficult, you're going to fall back on it. Now, when I say it's so difficult, if that's the only thing that you're interested in and you love doing it, it's not difficult. It's just a bit tricky, and there are some things that you need to navigate. But anything that's worth doing is not easy, as I'm sure you know. Number 4, I didn't realize that I was actually doing this, but visualization is key to creating success in any area of your life. I really didn't know that it was a thing that people did. I would just picture myself on big stages all across the world, and I would do this a few times a week. Some weeks I would do this every single day. And when I started gigging regularly, it became easier to believe that bigger gigs, bigger stages and bigger festivals will be possible. And I visualized, not every single part of my journey, but I certainly visualized myself touring and being on big stages across the world. And so when it happened, it wasn't until I looked back a few years later, when I actually stopped performing for a while. I stopped performing for like 5 or 6 years. And when I stopped performing, I looked back and I said, actually, I had visualized that, but I didn't realize. So visualization is absolutely key. This is what a lot of athletes do. People in Hollywood, so Jennifer Aniston has talked about it. Drake has talked about this. I believe Denzel Washington as well. And I know that lots of other people who are very, very famous and very, very successful, they all use visualization to help them. The reason being, your brain doesn't actually know the difference between what's true and what's false, which is why we create memories that aren't entirely accurate. That's a whole different subject. But when you visualize regularly, you trick your brain into believing that it's already happened. And when you've experienced something once, it's easier to believe and make it happen again. Visualization. Number 5, tell people that you're a singer or a singer-songwriter or a performer. I was telling people from the age of about 8 that I was going to be a dancer. I didn't know that I was going to actually become a singer. I was sure that I was going to be Michael Jackson and Madonna's dancer when I grew up. So I was born in the 70s, grew up in the 80s, and I was absolutely obsessed with dancing. I was obsessed with Madonna until the age of like 11, and then I continued my obsession, and then Michael Jackson joined in. And this was because I wasn't allowed to listen to punk. I was always a punk, right? But anyway, I digress. When I started telling people that I was a singer, I still had my job. I was still working as a croupier, but it was while I was a croupier that I decided that I was going to be a singer. And so when I was out and about and I wasn't at work and people say to me, what do you do? I would say, I'm a singer. And this is how I got my first ever gig. So I moved back to London, and after 2 weeks, I got my first gig. And I was in a pub in Fulham where I grew up, and a guy called Boots, his nickname, DJ Boots Hi-Fi, he's very well known in that area. He's been a DJ around there, putting on really good events for a really long time, since probably I was a kid. And he was in the pub, and someone told me that he puts on gigs and he puts on events and he puts on singers and he promotes singers and these live events. And that same person told him that I was a singer. And so he came over, we were introduced, he said, okay, sing something. I sang a chorus, I can't remember what it was, but I sang a chorus of something there on the spot. And he said, okay, I'm gonna give you a gig. And he gave me my first gig when I couldn't get a gig. And I did lots and lots and lots of gigs with him and for him for probably about 3 or 4 years. And every now and then I go and play gigs for him as well. Number 6, this is something that most people don't share. Talk about music, talk about your love of music, your love of songwriting. Talk about the gigs that you have been going to, the gigs that you're playing, artists and bands that you'd love to see, people that you're inspired by. Because when people hear you talking passionately about what you do, they're going to take you more seriously and they're going to remember. So you talk about yourself as a singer, you talk about other people, other musicians. You know, introduce them to musicians and artists that they've never heard of as well. You will be taken more seriously. And so it will be easier for them to remember you when someone else needs someone who is like you. You will be recommended. Number 7, I say this almost every single time I talk about singing and make this type of video. You must practice regularly. And when I say regularly, I mean a minimum of 4 times a week. There are going to be weeks when you don't have the time to practice that often, but as long as you're singing regularly, if you can only make 20 minutes a day for a couple of weeks, at least that's something. You've got to keep it going. You've got to work on your instrument. It will also help you to build confidence. And the more that you practice, the more you'll understand how your voice works. So when things don't quite go to plan, it will be much easier for you to analyze what's happened and fix it so that you can move forward. Number 8, be reliable. You could be the most talented person in the world, but if you don't show up on time, if you don't know your lyrics, if you don't know the melody, if you don't know how songs go, if you forget where you're supposed to be, you won't get rebooked, okay? Promoters and musicians are a bit more forgiving, but promoters and agents especially will not put up with any nonsense, okay? Because their time is money. So make sure that you can be reliable. Now, I wasn't the best singer, okay, by any stretch of the imagination. I was in a lot of vocal groups at the beginning, and I wasn't the best singer, but I always knew the words, I always knew my part, and I always made it my business to learn at least one other part, one other harmony in case someone didn't show up so that I could fill in. And I learned very, very early on, even when I was a backing singer, to learn the lead part as well. Because if the singer doesn't show up, you can always step in. And that might be the key to getting a new job. Number 9, something I wish someone had told me very long ago at the beginning of my career. So I want to share this with you. Only take on projects that are a win-win-win for everyone involved. I did a lot of favors over the years. I was exploited a lot in terms of doing lots of work without being paid. I actually got a reputation as someone who was really good on stage, really good stage presence, will always show up and would do it for free. And I wish that wasn't the case, but you know, hindsight is a fantastic thing. So if I were to start again, of course I would do favors for people. Of course, that's, you know, it goes without saying. But I would make sure that the projects I worked on would be a win-win for everyone involved. So whether that be just myself and the other artist, or myself and the band, myself, the band and the promoter, you know, it's got to be right for you, and it's got to align with your focus and your vision as a singer. And finally, number 10, most importantly, believe in yourself. I know so many singers who have been held back by lack of self-belief, by lack of self-worth, and by not valuing who they are as a person. When you have self-belief, it's much easier for you to go after what you want and to say no to what you don't want. Now, of course, I still, to this very day, have times when I don't feel like I'm quite up to scratch, when I don't quite feel good enough. Sometimes my latest song isn't that great. Sometimes I do a performance and I feel like I could have done better. That's normal. But being able to pick yourself up and know that you can continue and not let the nerves become anxiety and stop you from doing what you want to do, that's going to take you a long way. Now, performance anxiety is a very, very real issue for lots of singers, and there are ways that you can get around that. My friend Jen, she is an anxiety coach. You can find her at Better Your Life. I'll put the link in the description. And I also, within my lessons, do some strategies and some methods that can help you with performance anxiety. Now, if you are a songwriter, I've got something very, very exciting coming up. I've got a free songwriting masterclass coming up. All you need to do to get involved is go to the pinned comment, click the link in there and put your details in, and you'll get everything you need in order to join that live workshop. Now, if you see the date and you find that you're not able to attend it live, then don't worry. Still sign up for it, because I am going to send everyone who signs up the recording. It will be available for a limited time, but you'll have plenty of time to watch and rewatch and take notes. If you are going to attend live, whether you're going to attend live or watch the recording, what we're going to do is work on some strategies live in the group. You can ask your questions and you will come out with something that you can continue to work on after the event, so that you'll have something for either your first song or your next song to work on. I trust that this has helped you to understand how you can make a professional career or semi-professional career from singing, and ways in which you can stay focused when things get tough, because they will. But always, always visualize the end goal and what it is you want to achieve as a singer, and that will help to keep you going. I'll see you in the next video. Stay hydrated. Ciao!